through now, reckoning with how people treat each other, how we're looking at race. You know, when you talk about the experience that you have, and then someone says back to you, I had no idea, how can we fix this? How can we make things better? I mean, when you look at a conversation like that, when you have those types of conversations, like how do they stick to you?
I'd say it's, it's different. And that's sort of the theme that you realize on both sides, whether it's, people's understanding of things or people's observations, whether they've realized about other people's experiences in their lives, whether it's somebody, they spend time with frequently or somebody they don't know. Just, going deeper into understanding people and their stories and their lives. I think the biggest point is everybody's different, whether that's, their personalities, beliefs, things of that sort, or also their experiences, what they've went through, what's occurred to them, how they got through it, how, it affected and changed them as a person. So sticking with that, it's just, making sure that you realize, everybody's an individual. I think the biggest thing, even as a person of color, me personally, I've looked at ways of my implicit biases and situations with people and things and trying to limit that and make sure, you get it firsthand experiences and knowledge, ask if you have questions, things of that sort. Limiting assumptions is always something that will do more good than harm, and just, encouraging other people to do the same. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned and try to, relay as a message to others is limit the implicit biases, things of that sort, talk to people, learn who they are and why they are who they are.
And it's tough because, like I said, in the last year, I've had conversations where someone says to me, I didn't know that the life was like this for, a set of the population doesn't look like me.
Right.
And, what do I do? And it's asking a lot of somebody who, like, for instance, if you and I were saying, we wouldn't have understood perfectly how women go through life.
Right, exactly.
We're not women. But then to put it on them to tell us, like, how can we do things better, seems like a lot to ask. I mean, especially if you're looking at it in the way that, we're talking about being black in America.
I'd say that's rooted, it has good intentions, and, it's the step in the right direction is asking the questions of how you can personally be better, because before, you set apart change in society, you got to change yourself. So I think that needs to, be first and foremost, that, like, it is appreciated and it is a step in the right direction. Yet you also have to look into it as you don't want to put that burden on somebody who's already having to deal with those set of issues and hurdles and roadblocks in everyday life. One thing I've talked to people a lot about is, doing the research on yourself of, traditional and historical battles that certain groups have had and struggles that commonly occur in those communities. It's pretty easy nowadays to educate yourself on that. You just have to do the work of whether it's reading a book, looking up the articles, doing the research yourself. But it is, a slippery slope of asking somebody to sort of fix the problem that they have to deal with, but they didn't create, and then also asking them to speak on behalf of other people that experiences may differ in a worse or in a better way.
There are no monolithic experiences, right? Like the way I grow up, it's not the way you grow up. Right. It's not the way, a teammate of yours grows up. And you think about these all the time.
Right.
Like you go through life and someone asks you about the experience of being black in America, which is, well, there's my experience.
Right.
There's your experience. But to give someone the full picture is a difficult thing to do because it's just not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Exactly. And so that's why I go back to, everybody has different experiences, different groups have different experiences, but you got to remember at the end of the day, everybody's an individual. And that being said, like you said, there's no cookie cutter. All right, people from this community face this issue the same way, handle it the same way, and it occurs on this frequency, things of that sort. So you, like I said, look at everybody as an individual, have those conversations, realize, you even have a different situation than, people you're close to, look like you, act like you, go through the same, systems as you. you guys experience that different. So what makes you think, everybody of a certain group would go through the same exact thing? And like I said, going back to the individuals, doing research, asking questions, doing your part and not putting too much on somebody else to be the reason for your change.
And the conversation, like by definition, is a difficult one.
Right.
Like it's not supposed to be an easy one. When you look at how it is addressed or how it's approached, I mean, there are obviously differences. Like you want to be accommodating, open, respectful, and then there are some points where like the point needs to be driven home.
Right.
How do you draw the line?
I'd say there's no specific line. It's a case-by-case basis. From my experience, at least, sort of as we talk about, every situation, every person is different. I'd say the biggest part is making sure you know your audience, know the person or people you're talking to, and deliver it, communicate it, present it in a way that is most easily digestible, but at the same point, you don't want to sugarcoat or leave out important facts and details to give the wrong impression. You want to give the information as cut and dry, as unambiguous, making sure that it's, fact point, not opinion, belief driven, but also making sure that it's presented in a way that somebody can internalize it, understand it, and relate as best as possible to it.
Yeah. Like I said, as I told you earlier, we're doing, we have conversations even in my newsroom where I'm working,
Right.
About how my life situation or a coworker's life situation has sort of put us in a headspace where this is how we approach certain things. These are things that I think about that a coworker does not have to.
Right.
Things that a coworker has to think about that I don't have to.
Exactly.
Just given our differences. But at the same time, these differences I think are what give us more strength in the end.
Exactly.
We're able to draw on each other's strengths, kind of shore up where everyone else might need support.
Exactly. And so that's definitely a very important point of making sure that you understand that other people's perspectives can help. It's seeing something maybe you didn't see, another set of eyes never hurts. Collective thinking breeds more ideas, individuality, things of that sort. And just making sure that, coming together, everybody appreciating and understanding each other will help us all go further.
And I think the thing that stood out to me the most when we were talking about this in the newsroom was that, like a lot of times people do feel the need to do what they've got to do to make sure they're either fitting in or not causing too much of a rocking the boat too hard,
right?
That kind of thing. And that kind of pressure, I think, is one where people aren't going to immediately notice it.
Exactly.
But when you see it and recognize it, what's a good way in your experience to deal with it?
I mean, I'd bring that back to the same point. You got to do everything you can, but you can't overdo it to where the message is lost and the point is lost and the intentions are lost. You got to push as much as possible without overstepping boundaries and turning people away, because that's going to do more harm than good when you start dividing people. It's all about communication, bringing people together, education, things of that sort. And that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So I know it's been a lot in the last year. We've spoken a lot, we've learned a lot, we've seen a lot.
Right.
If you could, I guess, distill some points from that, I guess, if you could encapsulate, and it was going to be kind of hard to do.
Right.
The biggest lesson that you've picked up in the last year.
I'd say the biggest lesson I've taken as a whole is just the theme of support. A lot of people base their relationships, off of how they've interacted with people, and sort of in this day and age with all the events that's happened and then all the news, media, social media coverage, things of that sort, where people have a lot bigger platforms, it's much easier to see other people's experiences and then, learn about experiences from people you may not have those conversations with. And I feel like it's made people a lot more open to engage in those conversations, ask those questions, and sort of look at themselves and take a step back, put their ego to the side and be like, where can I do better? What do I need to do better? Where can I learn? What should I educate myself on? What may I have been missing or turning a blind eye to? And that's like I said, just us continuing to come together, educate, talk, connect, and then move in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a good thing.